Hello, my wreath making friends. How are you today? Come on in. I am so excited. Today we're going to make a brand new style of wreath, something that I've never done. So I'm really excited to try this with you. We're going to make a double wreath using two 14-inch wire wreath frames from the Dollar Tree and this super cute Be Happy sign. It's actually very large. It's 6 inches in width and 24 inches in length. And so we're going to make a double deco mesh wreath. Friends, I will leave a full supplies and tools list for you below in the description of this video so you can recreate this if you'd like. If you are new to my channel, welcome, welcome. We're sure happy to have you. Stillwater's Wreath Designs is all about wreath making tutorials and door swag tutorials. So if you love to create wreaths, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and spend some time creating with us. All right, friends, let's dive in. Go ahead and plug in your hot glue gun. Grab a boatload of pipe cleaners or Chanel stems. You can go ahead and cut off the hanger that's on your sign, friends. And again, this came from the Dollar Tree. Go ahead and just toss that guy away. We won't be using that. Let's go ahead and prep our sign, friends. It's just going to come up about 8 inches on each side here. And we're going to be using our mounting brackets so that we can attach our sign down into the wreath frames. And friends, if you're new to wreath making and you're not familiar with mounting brackets, they're just 1 inch by 1 inch plastic squares with holes all the way around. And then some really heavy duty 3M sticky tape on the back. These guys are great to attach signs and heavier embellishments into your wreaths. You can actually grab these, gosh, there's probably like 100 for just a few dollars. I'll leave a link for you below in the description of this video if you'd like to grab some for your wreath making toolkit. So I've just come down 6 or 8 inches, doesn't need to be perfect. And then for some extra strength and stability, I like to take my glue gun and just run a quick bead of glue all the way around that mounting bracket to really just give it some extra hold. There we go. Now that we've got our beads of glue ran around those brackets, we can set our sign off to the side so this guy can be drying while we work on prepping our wreath base. All right, friends, so just a little wreath 101. This is what's called a wire wreath frame. You can grab these from nearly anywhere. This actually came from the Dollar Tree, and it is a 14-inch wire frame. And this has got 4 rings, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then it's got crossbars all the way around this wreath frame. And then it's got 6 sections. And so a section is the space between one crossbar and the next, just for a reference point. And I'm going to need you to go ahead and keep your hot glue gun plugged in and grab a ton of Chanel stems or pipe cleaners. These are just standard 12-inch pipe cleaners. And everything I show you at this point, friends, as we prep our wreath frames, we're going to be doing to both exactly the same way, okay? Go ahead and grab your pipe cleaners so that we can load them onto our wire wreath frame. The pipe cleaners are going to be what holds our deco mesh. And so the first thing I want you to do, friends, is grab a pipe cleaner. And then we're going to add 1 pipe cleaner in each section that wraps around rings 1 and 2. And so you're just going to run your pipe cleaner underneath rings 1 and 2. And in the middle of that pipe cleaner, doesn't have to be perfect, you're going to give it 2 tight twists, just like that. And after you give those couple of tight twists, point those guys towards the center of your wreath. And so you can see we've wrapped this guy around rings 1 and 2. It's basically centered between the crossbars. And we're just going to add 1 in each section all the way around. Let's do one more together. So I've grabbed my pipe cleaner. I've got it centered between the 2 crossbars we're going to wrap it around rings 1 and 2. Just going to give it a couple of tight twists and then point those guys inwards. So friends, I want you to go ahead and add 1 pipe cleaner around rings 1 and 2 in every section of both of your wire wreath frames, and I'll meet you back here. Now that we've added our first layer of pipe cleaners to our wire frames, we're going to add our second layer, friends, and we're basically going to follow this same thought process. However, this time we'll be wrapping our pipe cleaners around rings 3 and 4, and we'll be adding 2 per section. So you're going to want to center your pipe cleaners from each other in the crossbars and just wrap them like we did before, friends, but this time underneath rings 3 and 4. Give those pipe cleaners a couple of tight twists, and this time point them outwards instead of inwards. And we're going to be doing 2 per section. So I've wrapped my pipe cleaner around rings 3 and 4, which are the outer 2 rings. And I'm going to point those guys outward. They're going to slide a bit. Don't worry about that. We'll fix them here in just a minute. So let's do one more section together and then we'll zoom through. So again, we're adding 2 pipe cleaners per section around rings 3 and 4. So I'm just running my pipe cleaner around those 2 rings, giving it a couple tight twists and pointing those guys outwards. And then I'm going to do it again around rings 3 and 4, couple of tight twists and point them outwards. So we've got 2 pipe cleaners around rings 3 and 4, centered basically between those 2 crossbars. We're going to do that in every single section in both of our wire wreath frames. So go ahead and get those added in, and I'll meet you back here. Once you have both of your wire wreath frames fully loaded with your pipe cleaners, and again, you should have 1 pipe cleaner in each section wrapped around rings 1 and 2, and 2 pipe cleaners in each section wrapped around rings 3 and 4, and they should be somewhat centered. They do like to slide around a little bit as we're handling them, so if you need to, just scooch them back in place. And the next thing I want to do, friends, is just add a dollop of glue, just maybe, gosh, probably a ½ inch or so stripe of glue around one of the 2 rings where every pipe cleaner meets that wire frame. That just helps keep it from sliding around. So work your way around both of your wreath frames and add that dollop of glue. And if any of your pipe cleaners shifted while you were adding them in, go ahead and scooch them back in place. So let's get our dollops of glue added into our wire frames here, friends, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment. Now that we've added a dollop of glue to each of our pipe cleaners on both of our wire frames, go ahead and sit your wire frames off to the side so that we can prepare our deco mesh. Now, friends, I'm going to leave mine here for just a minute to show you something real quickly. The colors I've chosen are this burlap tan, a lighter blue, and then a metallic yellow. I feel like those are all very complementary to our sign. These are all 10-inch deco mesh rolls. And so let's do a little bit of deco mesh math here before we begin cutting our deco mesh. So we are filling, remember, 2 wire wreath frames here, and we've got 3 pipe cleaners per section and 6 sections. So each of our wire frames is going to need 18 pieces of deco mesh, okay? And so then in total, we're going to need 36 cuts of deco mesh. Friends, if you have a smaller work area, you can certainly just, do 1 wreath at a time here. If you have a larger work area, you can just cut all your deco mesh at once. And so because we've got 3 different types of deco mesh that we'll be using, and we need a total of 36 cuts, that means we need 12 pieces of each of our 3 colors here, friends, because we're going to add 1 piece of deco mesh per pipe cleaner or chenille stem, okay? So there's our quick deco mesh math for this project. At this point, friends, you're going to want to either grab your self-healing mat and your rotary cutter, or a good pair of scissors and your tape measure or ruler. If you're new to wreath making, friends, this is what's called a rotary cutter. It basically looks like a little pizza cutter, and this guy is pretty cost effective. It might be, I don't know, $10 or $15 on Amazon. I'll link that for you below if you'd like to add this to your wreath making toolkit. And basically the rotary cutter and self-healing mat, friends, lets you cut your deco mesh much quicker and with a very clean straight line. I'll show you what I mean. So we're just going to measure this out, and again, either with your self-healing mat or your tape measure and scissors, and we're going to cut 24-inch pieces. So you're just going to measure out your deco mesh, and with your scissors or rotary cutter, give it a cut. And remember, we need 12 pieces of each color, cut at 24 inches in length. Go ahead and take a little bit of time here, friends, and get all of your deco mesh cut, and I'll meet you back here. Now that we have all of our deco mesh cut and prepped, friends, you should have a small mountain of deco mesh beside you. Let's go ahead and start adding our deco mesh into our wire wreath frames. So go ahead and grab one of your wire wreath frames, friends, and I would also recommend that you grab a clothespin or a chip clip, and I'll show you why in just a second here. I'm just using a plastic clothespin from the Dollar Tree. This comes in a pack of like 10, so they're handy to have around in your craft stash. And we're going to load our wreaths with what's called a cruffle, friends. So each of these ties is going to get 1 deco mesh cruffle, and we're going to put 1 of each color into each section. So let me grab a piece of deco mesh to show you how you make a cruffle. And so deco mesh, friends, if you are new to working with it, loves to fray, and the cruffle method is a great method to help really reduce that fray. And let me show you why. You're going to take your first piece of deco mesh. It likes to curl in on itself, so you want it to be curl side up. And on one end, friends, you're going to just roll your deco mesh into 2 or 3 curls. And once you've done that, take your chip clip or your clothespin and just pinch that guy together in the center. And the benefit of doing this, friends, is that it tucks away the raw edge of your deco mesh to really help prevent the fray. So once you've done that, flip your piece of deco mesh over, do the same thing on the other end. I'm just going to add 3 curls here. And once I've added those 3 curls, I'm going to start cruffling the deco mesh. So I'm going to keep my thumb stationary and pressing down on this curl. And then with my fingers, I'm just going to walk the deco mesh into my hand. And just keep walking until you've reached the end of your piece. And then you can remove your chip clip and pinch that guy together in your fingers, and you've just made your first cruffle. So cruffle really is a curl on each end to tuck away those raw edges, and a ruffle in the middle, hence you've got the cruffle. And so we're going to add 1 cruffle per set of pipe cleaner ties on our wreath base, friends. And typically I do 1 layer at a time, but for today's wreath base method, I'm going to fill each section at a time. And so it doesn't matter where you start, just choose one of the sets of ties in your section, and you're going to open those pipe cleaners into a wide V, keeping a hold of your cruffle. Press that guy down all the way down to the center of that V at the base of your wreath, and then take those ties and give them 2 or 3 tight twists, and point those guys outwards. And you've just added your first cruffle. Let's do this section together, friends, and then we'll speed through. And remember, we've got 3 sets of ties per section and 3 different colors of deco mesh, and we're going to add 1 cruffle of each color into each section. So let me grab my next piece of deco mesh. I'm going to lay it on my workstation, curl side up. And at one end, I'm going to roll it in onto itself tightly 2 or 3 times to make that curl. I'll take my clip and hold that guy in place in the center and spin my deco mesh around. I'll do the same thing on the other end, rolling it in onto itself 2 or 3 times to make that curl. I'll keep my thumb stationary and use my fingers to walk the deco mesh into my hand all the way to the end. Then I can release that clip, pinch that guy together in the center. I'm going to come to the next set of ties in my section. I'm going to open those pipe cleaner ties all the way open into a wide V. And I'm going to press that cruffle all the way down to the base. And then I'm going to give that pipe cleaner tie 2 or 3 tight twists and point those guys outwards. And then I just like to abut my cruffle ends together so they look nice. I'm going to grab my last color here for our last set of ties. I'm going to put it down in my workstation, curl side up. I'm going to curl my first end here 2 or 3 times into a tight curl. Use my clip to secure that guy right in the middle. I've spun my piece of deco mesh around. I'm going to make 2 or 3 tight curls again. And then, keeping my thumb stationary, I'll use my fingers to walk this deco mesh into my fingers here all the way to the end of this piece. I'll release my clip, pinch that guy together in my fingers, and I'm going to come to my last set of ties within this section, which is the upper set. I've opened them into a wide V and placing this cruffle all the way down to the base. I'm going to give these ties 2 or 3 tight twists, and then I'm going to point them outwards. We've just added our last cruffle for this section, friends. So I want you to repeat this process in every single section on both of your wreath frames. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not really going to follow any specific type of pattern other than I'm just going to go whimsically. So in this section, I've got tan and blue on the lower level and yellow on the upper level. In the next section, I'll just, probably make sure that my yellow is at the lower level and choose one of my other colors at the upper level. I just want to keep it, with a nice amount of variety. So go ahead and add 1 cruffle to every single set of ties on both your wreath frames, making sure you've got 1 of each color in each section, and then I'll meet you back here. All right, friends, we have finally got both of our wire wreath frames totally loaded with all of our deco mesh cruffles, and holy smokes, these are some big fellas, guys. Because of how full these wreaths turned out, friends, I'm going to change my mind. Instead of putting them diagonally as I had originally intended, which quite frankly is just going to be too wide for any door, we're going to place them one on top of the other like so. So I'm going to grab a couple of zip ties and then I'll meet you back here. So I've just grabbed 2 12-inch zip ties, friends. Doesn't matter what color they are. Nobody's going to see them. I'm going to flip both of my wreaths over, and at this point they don't have a top or bottom, so it doesn't matter how you line them up, just as long as they're together like so. Now, because our deco mesh is so full, it's not going to fit together all the way, friends. Make sure that you've got some crossbars lined up here, and let me show you why. If you run your zip tie on one side of the crossbar on one wreath form, and then the other side of the crossbar on the other, that's going to keep your zip tie from sliding around. So I'm going to leave about, oh, I don't know. That's probably an inch gap between the two wreaths. And then I'm going to take my zip tie about 3 inches over in either direction. It doesn't matter which way. And I'm going to zip tie it again. And that'll just keep the two wreaths from twisting and give it a little bit more strength and stability. Once you've got those both zip tied down, just go ahead and grab your snips and trim off your zip tie tails. There you go. This is going to be one big wreath, friends. Holy smokes. Definitely not something that we could ship. Because we've changed the location of where we're going to be placing our wreath, we're going to have to add in 2 more mounting brackets, friends. My apologies. Just didn't realize how big this guy would get. So what I want you to do is lay your sign in the center or wherever you'd like to place it. And then just kind of mark with your fingers where those zip ties need to go. Give them a good solid push. We'll run a bead of glue around the perimeter of those ties and just give it a couple of minutes to dry. All right, now that our glue has dried, friends, we can go ahead and get our sign attached. And to attach our sign, I'm going to use floral wire stems. These are heavy gauge floral wire stems that come in a package of several hundred from Hobby Lobby or Amazon. I'll link those for you below. And they're really great to attach heavier signs or embellishments. These are 18 inches in length. And so what I do, friends, I just kind of fold those in half just to identify that center point there at the V. And I'm going to run that right through my mounting bracket. And I'll just give it a twist or two just to keep that guy from sliding out while we attach it. And then I'll do the same thing for the second mounting bracket. And another couple of loose twists here. And now we can add this guy into our double wreath base. And I'm going to place this directly in the center, friends. And so you can only do one at a time, really. Just poke your wires through the wreath base. Hopefully the camera is capturing this well for you, friends. As you can see, I'm wrapping those wires around a crossbar just to help to keep them from sliding. All right, friends, we've got our sign firmly attached, and it's still a little bit floppy. We're going to fix that in just a minute, but first, I'm just running my hands through the wreath and pulling that deco mesh out from underneath so we can see all of its prettiness in our wreath. Once you've got all your deco mesh pulled out, friends, and you're happy with the placement of your sign, what I want you to do is grab your glue gun. Now this seems silly, but gently lift up your sign and push some glue right on that sign, and we're going to push that into our deco mesh a little bit. And we're going to do the same for the top. That'll just help keep it from sliding. We don't need the glue to really anchor it, friends, because we did that with our floral wire. All right, friends, we can continue to work on our wreath. We just don't want to disturb our sign too much. So I've actually made 2 bows off camera, friends, just to save some time on making this big fella. Let me show you what I've got here. So they're pretty bougie. I've actually got 3 different types of 2.5-inch ribbon. I've got the floral daisy, the teal and white stripe, and some bumblebee. And then I've got 3 different types of 1.5-inch ribbon, a black and white polka dot, a solid teal, and a yellow and white polka dot. And I've made 2 exactly the same. And if you are like me, friends, and you struggle with bow making, that was the hardest thing for me when I started wreath making. I'll actually leave a couple of links below in the description of this video that will give you some step-by-step bow making walkthrough tutorials to really help you with your bow making. I would just recommend always that you choose wired ribbon. It doesn't matter the width or how many styles you choose, or even if it's just one, just make sure it's wired, friends. That's what helps hold your bow's shape. And so I'm going to add 2 bows into our wreath, friends, one in the upper left-hand corner and one in the bottom right-hand corner. And to attach these guys in, you're just going to identify the spot that you want. Make sure on your bow stack that your tails and loops are going the right direction. And then, once you've done that, just find a set of chenille stems or pipe cleaners, whatever you call them, to add this guy in. And so I've identified my set of pipe cleaners here, and I'm just going to make sure, again, that my loops and tails are going the right way. And I'm going to secure that down with that set of pipe cleaners, giving it several tight twists, and then I'll just curl that under out of the way. And then we're going to do a rough fluff. And so if you're new to my channel, you'll hear me say lots that I do a rough fluff and then a final fluff on my bows. So the rough fluff is just a quick pulling of the loops and tails to get them all laying kind of where I want them and going in the right direction, just so I can see what kind of space they're going to take up, friends. And so because I've got 3 of each type, I'll have 2 of the 2.5 inch going diagonally one way and 2 of the same going the other, and then the third option going straight across. And then we'll do the same thing with our 1.5 inch ribbon. Just making that X, kind of opening up those loops with my fingers, not doing anything fancy yet. This is our rough fluff, as I call it. There we go, just to give us an idea of where everything is going to be laying. And then I just pull my tails down. Go ahead and grab your scissors, and we're going to trim our tails. And so let me tell you, when you're trimming your tails, friends, just a rule of thumb, you can either dovetail them or angle trim the ends. It's your choice. And I would just recommend that you always cut gently. You can always take more off, but you can't put more on. So it's better to cut gently and then trim them again if you need to, as opposed to over cutting and then, you know, wishing your tails weren't so short. So just cut gingerly. That is looking good. Now we're going to do the exact same thing to the lower level. All right, friends, now that we've got both of our bows added in and we've got that rough fluff and tail trim in place, now we're going to cut some ribbon tails to sprinkle throughout the remainder of our wreath, adding them in as we wish into the remainder of our ties. I'm going to make my tails 12 inches long, and I'll probably cut, 3 of each one to start, friends. And so I've measured out my first piece at 12 inches. I'm going to fold it onto itself 3 times to give me that 3 pieces. It's a quick way to measure, and then I'll just cut off that excess. Friends, you don't need to be exact. Nobody's going to be measuring your tails. And then I'm just going to separate my ribbon. So that I've got 3 pieces. I'll make sure those ends are married up, and then I'm going to angle cut the ends of our tails just like we did our ribbon tails. So go ahead and we'll start out with 3 pieces of each of these ribbon types. About 12 inches in length, angle cut them, and then I'll meet you back here and we'll get these guys added in. All right, friends, once you've got all of your tails cut, you should have a little stack of ribbons here. It's time to add these into our wreath base. And so I'm just going to sprinkle my tails throughout these open bits of space, adding them into our ties. You can choose to add 2 ribbon tails per set of ties, and to add 2, you just lay one on top of the other. And then you would just scrunch and gather right in the middle of that bow tie. Just eyeball it, friends. No one's looking for perfection. And then just find a set of ties, open them up to a V, place that set of tails all the way down at the base, give it 2 or 3 tight twists, and then with your small snips, just trim off the excess bit of your ties. And then you can fluff out your tails either by pointing them in a V, going away from the center of your sign, or you can pull them into an X, whatever you prefer. And then of course, because they're wired, you can give them some curvature if you'd like with your fingers. You can also add just a single tail in if you'd prefer. It's totally up to you. Just sprinkle your tails throughout your double wreath, and I'll meet you back here. All right, friends, how cute is this turning out to be? Oh my goodness. So now, once you've added all your tails in and you're satisfied with that, go ahead and take your small trimmers and work your way through your wreath and basically just trim off any leftover bits of tails that are sticking out that maybe we didn't attach anything down into. Just get those guys trimmed out and I'll meet you back here. All right, friends, now that we've trimmed out all of those bits of leftover ties, let's go ahead and do the final fluff on our bows. And I'm just going to go right back in with my fingers, open up all those loops, make sure they're going in the direction I want them to go. And then I'll take my fingers and run them over the tails on both my bow and throughout my wreath if I missed any, and just give those guys all a cute little bump. Perfect, that is adorable. We've got just one more step. Last but not least, friends, I'm just going to add a few florals. I grabbed a bush of florals that I had laying around, and I'm going to just trim off a few of the yellow and a few of the teal. Make sure you slide up your greenery bits and leave yourself about a 2-inch tail. So I'm going to cut off a couple of each here. I think I'll add in some of the blue. Friends, I get nearly all of my florals from Hobby Lobby. They have a great quality, and you definitely don't want to skimp on quality when it comes to florals. And a cost-saving tip, they are on sale for 40% off every other week. These are on a wire stem, friends, so you can turn them and twist them as you wish. And I'm just going to dry place these guys and see where I like them before I actually glue them down and commit. Might need to trim off a little bit more of those stems. I think that looks good, friends. I'm going to keep them bunched together. I just like the way that looks. I'm going to trim off another inch or so of stem, and then I'm going to run a bead of hot glue right on that stem, about an inch worth, and just shove that guy right down in there. I just want to give them a little bit of time to dry. And as long as they're touching something, which our wreath is chocked full of deco mesh and ribbon, they will attach great. So again, just a bead of glue that's about an inch or so in length. And then I'm just placing it down into the wreath. That is perfect, friends. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I hope you enjoyed creating with me today. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. And again, if you're new here, thank you for stopping by. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks, friends. Happy crafting.